Alright, it says jury selection. Juries should have the same racial distribution as the surrounding communities. Okay, according to the U.S. Census, about 18% of the residents in Minneapolis, Minnesota are African American. Okay, so it says 18% of Minneapolis is African American. Alright, so suppose a local court randomly selects 100 adult citizens to participate in the jury pool. Okay, so court randomly selects 100 people. And then it says, use the central limit theorem and the empirical rule to find the approximate probability that the proportion of available African American jurors is more than 2 standard errors from the proportion population value of 0.18. Okay, so it says, what is the probability that the proportion in our sample is more than 2 standard errors away from (0.18), which is the population proportion. All right, and it says the conditions for the central limit theorem are satisfied because the sample is random, the population is more than 10 times 1,000, n times p is 18, and n times 1 minus p is 82. Both are more than 10. Okay, so be sure you read that paragraph on checking out the conditions. Okay, read the paragraph on the conditions. So it says the conditions are all met, and it explains why there, and so we can just figure this out ourselves. Okay. All right. So according to this, anytime we take a sample of 100 people, okay, we would expect the proportion in our sample that are African American to be close to 18%. So here it tells us that P, the population proportion, is 18%. Our P hats, anytime we take a random sample of 100, we might not necessarily get 18% African American. We might get more than that, we might get less than that. Our P hat follows a normal model, and the mean is going to be equal to P, and the standard error, or the standard deviation is equal to our standard error. So our mean is 0.18, and the standard deviation is our standard error, which is going to be P times 1 minus P over n. So in this case, it's the square root of 0.18 times 0.82 divided by 100. And the number I get for that is 0.0384. All right, but we actually don't even need that number, because if we draw a picture, in the center we would put P, which is 0.18, and it's asking what would happen if I go out 2 standard deviations. So if this is 1 and this is 2, or it says 2 standard errors, but each standard error is a standard deviation. Okay, so this is 2 standard deviations, and this is 2 standard deviations. Okay, so from the empirical rule, how much is within 2 standard deviations of the mean? So the empirical rule tells us that 95% is within 2 standard deviations of the mean. So empirical rule says that whenever I take a P hat, 95% of the P hats will be within 2 standard deviations of the mean. Okay, So what percent will be outside of 2 standard deviations of the mean, or 2 standard errors away from the mean? Because each standard deviation each standard error is a standard deviation, so we can use these interchangeably whenever we're talking about p hat. So only 5% of the p hats will be more than 2 standard deviations away from P, which is 18%. Okay, so if we take a random sample of 100 people from Minneapolis, we're expecting something close to 18% to be African American. But because it's a random sample, sometimes we'll get more than that, sometimes we'll get less than that. But we don't. We expect only 5% to be more than 2 standard deviations or 2 standard errors away from 0.18. If we're doing random sampling in Minneapolis.